Hey there! This week's topic is a pretty controversial mental disorder, the dissociative identity disorder, or else DID. You might know it under its old name, multiple personality disorder, even if just out of movies like Split, Glass, or The Fight Club. The problem with all of these movies is that they make a viewer think that this disorder is a horribly evil disease which lets you channel the worst part of your personality and run around killing people, while another part of you is trying to suppress it and is the Dr. Jekyll trying to outrun Mr. Hyde, but both of them are in the same biological person, obviously. That is not the case. But to understand that, I'm going to tell you a bit about the neuroscience behind the disease. And then we're gonna interview Amber, a wonderful YouTuber who is living with DID and has agreed to let us learn a little more about living with this condition in real life, because talking all science about it is not making it justice. Let's get right into it. Dissociative identity disorder is a mental health disorder which can be best understood as two or more distinct personalities, or better called alters, living within one body. Alters are like completely separate people. One can be bold and loud and strong, while another one is quiet, neurotic, introverted, or whatever you can think of. The alters could also have a lot more visible differences, like shifts in handedness, accents, and differences in eyesight. There have actually been reports of one alter needing glasses while others don't, even though it's the same eyes. Alters can be of another sex, another age, sexual orientation, and other species as the body they're living in. What always comes with this switch in personality is amnesia. Other alters do not remember what the one experienced while in front. Fronting is what it's called when one personality is in control of the body while the others are not. And this amnesia, this not remembering what happened to the other alters, is thought to be the reason they are created in the first place, to protect the person experiencing some really horrible trauma. DID can only form in childhood, before a kid is between 7 and 9 years old, because this is when the personality of a person is really integrated into one, the one that it's gonna be in the long run. If a child has experienced a particularly traumatic event or has been repeatedly exposed to trauma, a mental barrier can be put up and a second personality can form to protect the child from what happened to it by not letting the core of the personality system even know what happened. It is a coping mechanism. This way, the original child is not gonna know what happened to it because it is protected by forgetting what happened or what keeps happening, because at difficult times the alter takes over, so it basically never really happened to the original child. This trauma I'm talking about can be anything, but it most often is repeated child abuse. Has a person developed one alter in childhood, new alters can keep coming up because the personality has never fully integrated in one, like it does in people who do not have DID. Experience in trauma does not mean that every kid will have to develop new split personalities, but still a lot of people are affected by this. There are statistics that state that it is affecting 0.5%, and others that say it's more like 2% of the population, but it's not that easy to assess exact numbers here because this disorder is very controversial since it is so, well, interesting and hard to diagnose. There are, on the one side, the psychiatrists who believe it is all just an act put on to make yourself more interesting because you have some other mental attention-seeking issues, or to make you less liable in court, for example. And on the other extreme, there are psychiatrists who are a bit too eager to diagnose this disease and are attributing it to anyone who has some symptoms, even if they could be any other disorder. The thing you need to understand with mental health is that there is no one right way to be sick. And each disorder has its own continuum, which might overlap with many other disorders, exactly like any other sickness. Just because you are coughing, it does not automatically mean that you have COVID-19. You can also have a million other infections and problems, but at the moment, COVID is so relevant and interesting that everyone will immediately think of it as soon as somebody coughs next to them in public transport. Similarly, psychiatrists who are interested in this disorder might just diagnose it every time they feel like the person might be behaving a bit off. This is not how a real good psychiatrist works, though. I'm exaggerating a lot here. And the thing is that you cannot just do a quick PCR test and find that, yeah, there are another 3 personalities in there or not, and be done with it. In psychiatry, the methodology of diagnosing someone with anything is a lot harder and complex, which is why it should not happen easily. Which is also why you should not diagnose yourself. Well, you shouldn't diagnose yourself with corona either, but, you know, seek help from a professional in either case, please. personalities. Now we know how it forms and why it is hard to find. But as a biologist, I'm interested in what the brain does in any mental disorder. Does the brain change at all? How does the brain look if you have more personalities? Do brains of DID patients differ from non-DID patients? Well, yes, they do. You can read more specific stuff in the papers I've mentioned in the description box, but I will give you a brief overview. DID patients have a smaller hippocampus and amygdala. The amygdala is the place in our brain where emotions are given meaning, are remembered, are attached to associations and responses to them. The hippocampus is important in learning and memory. The frontal lobe has also been shown to have significantly less gray matter in comparison to healthy controls, and essentially the ability to control our behavior and express our emotions, thoughts, and fears. There are also significantly larger tracts ensuring the neuronal communication between the basal ganglia, which is responsible for motor control, emotions, and executive functions and behaviors, and the precuneus, which is involved with memory, visual, spatial processing, self-reflection, and aspects of consciousness. So having DID can affect every aspect of these areas of the brain and subsequently their functions. It's not an imaginary disorder, it's something that is developed because of critical, probably repeated childhood trauma. It is affecting your brain development and is having an effect on your personality, or in this case, switching personalities for the rest of your life. But let's now get to the much more interesting part of this video, the interview with Amber, a wonderful and delightful human being who has DID and is going to tell us a bit more about the real deal, or DID in real life, so that we realize that everything we are talking about here is always affecting real people around us, and it's not just a story you read in some journal about. Hello, Caroline! Who are you today?
It's Amber today.
Hello, Amber!
Hello.
Could you just tell us your name, how old you are, and what exactly your condition feels like for you?
Right, so yeah, it's called dissociative identity disorder. The age of the body is 35, but my personal age, because I'm an alter, is 24, not 35. So I differentiate an age that's different to the body.
Does that mean that you were created when the body was 24, or does it have nothing to do with it?
No, so I was created when the body was 19.
Okay.
And when I was created, I was 22.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years ago, I decided I was what's called age stuck, so I stayed at 22 over the years. And then 2 years ago, I decided that I would start aging up with the body, hence why I'm now 24.
Oh, wow. And do you have the same birthday as the body, or is your birthday another one? Do you even celebrate birthday?
No, it's actually the day I was created. I want to take it from a negative to a positive.
Okay.
So I take that day for my birthday, which is the 26th of September.
I am a September kid as well. Today we decided to do this interview on my channel to raise awareness of this condition and to also destigmatize it. Are all of your alters okay with it? You know, were you able to communicate it with them, and are they okay with me interviewing you?
Right, so the alters that I can't communicate, because I can't communicate with all of them, but the main ones that take control of the body, I can communicate with. Yeah, and we had a little meeting beforehand. We have a special sort of like meeting table room in our inner world, and we sat down and had a meeting so they know what's going on. Sebastian knows if he comes out that he's not to swear or be mean.
Oh, it's fine. He can be however he wants to be.
Not take over and be good.
Okay. No, but don't stress about it. Everybody can be as he is, and that's fine. How many are you?
So what I personally know of is 9 of us. But that may differ from alter to alter because different alters know about different ones.
Okay, so
there may be more, I just don't know about it.
Do you want to introduce some of them? Tell us who they are.
Yes, certainly. So you've got Caroline, who is the person that was born in this body, or the core person. Then you have Sebastian, who is a persecutor / protector, and he's male, obviously, from the name. Then you've got Lilith, who is a protector and a sexual alter. Then there's Roseanne, who is a little, so she's a child, she's 6, and she's a child in every way and completely innocent. Then there is Storm, who is a non-human alter, and then the ones that I don't really know about, I only know very basic information of, is Sparkles, that I know is non-human, Shadow, who is non-human, and then Reginald, which I'm assuming is a dude by the name.
Yes. And what are they? If you say they're non-human, what are they? Yes,
so Sparkles is a unicorn. And she's attached to Roseanne, so Roseanne created her, our child. Hence probably why it's a unicorn. And Shadow and Storm, the best way to describe them is they look like a house cat, but they're like the size of a lion or a tiger.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how are they able to communicate on some level with some of you?
So Shadow only communicates with Sebastian and Roseanne. He refuses to have any contact with anyone else. And Storm, communicates with all of us. She can front if she wants to, but she chooses not to, because when she fronts, she's actually mute, so she can't talk. Mm-hmm. But in the inner world, she communicates to us via telepathy.
So you said that you are not exactly sure if there might be even more. You just know about these 9. Okay.
So they're called subsystems. So because Caroline has DID, some of the alters can therefore also have DID.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So it's like a system within a system.
Who do you know to be the first alter that was created?
So Sebastian and Roseanne were the first ones created. I believe they were created at the same time, and they are also brother and sister.
Okay, and when were they created? In Caroline's age?
Oh, she was like 1.5, 2,
so around that young.
Age. Yes, yeah, very young.
Said that Roseanne is a child.
Mm-hmm. She's age locked, so she doesn't grow or age.
Okay, but is Sebastian a child as well, or does he age?
No, he's an adult. He always aged with the body. So as the body he grew up, so did he. So he relates with the body and is age 35. Okay.
Do the other alters know about each other, except for the ones that were created together? Or does, for example, Amber know about all of the alters you know? Not Amber, Caroline. Does Caroline know about all the alters that you know about, or does Sebastian know about all of them?
Right, so Caroline knows the same amount of information as I know about the other alters, whereas Sebastian and Roseanne know more because obviously they know their own subsystems as well as the main system.
How do you communicate?
So normal, like I'm talking to you, we can talk to each other. Apart from Storm, who does it via telepathy. So she sort of looks at us and then an image or a word will appear in our head and then we reply back to her in our normal voice.
So you can meet in some place in your mind where you can communicate with all of them separately, or is there a possibility of all of you being there together?
Yes, so we have what's called an inner world. So it's a place in our mind where all of us live. I suppose it would be like a big house. We've each got our own like room where we can go and do our own thing.
Yeah.
And then there's like a big, huge, massive communal room where we can all hang out. and then is I call the fronting room, which is where we go if we want to front and take control of the body. And then there is what I call the mind warehouse, where everyone's memories are stored.
I suppose you don't have all the same memories because the idea is very much associated with amnesia and stuff like that. So how does that look for you?
So I know you're not in the UK, but have you ever seen a TV programme called Warehouse 13?
No, I haven't.
No, right, okay. That's not going to be helpful at all then. So basically, imagine a big, huge, like, factory-sized storage room, and it's just filled with boxes from floor to ceiling, and it goes way, way, way back. Mm-hmm. That's what it looks like, but in each of the boxes is an individual memory. Okay. And it looks a little bit different for each altar because we have access to different memories. My memories, the boxes are open. Memories of other altars that I can access, I can open the box, and then memories I don't have access to won't open for me. Okay.
Yes, that's a great explanation. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, I spent a lot of time in there.
True. You refer to yourself in plural. You talk about us all the time. Is it only when you are co-conscious with somebody else, or do you just generally do that?
So I live on my own, although I do have a partner. Me personally, I tend to say we or our in like communications or online, or with our partner, but it does depend on the situation. So if I was to be out in public, obviously the public doesn't know, so I would say I or me. And yeah, but not all the altars do it. So Roseanne, she always says like I or me. It's never like we.
Well, she's little. That's a normal thing kids do, right? There is the possibility that something triggers you, and that this will then result in a switch in fronting, as I understood it. So that somebody else is gonna be the person controlling the body.
There's several things that can cause a switch. So if it's like a negative trigger, so say I get frightened or scared, then that would trigger out one of the protectors to come out because their job is to protect us. There are positive triggers. So if I go to town, I have to avoid the area of town that has the toy shops, because if I look at them toy shops, that will trigger Roseanne to come out. So there's lots of different triggers that can cause a switch, but also if I've had enough of fronting or I want to just take a break, I can ask one of the others to come forward, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Oh, so you can basically also a little bit of control your switching. A
little bit.
That's
we're working on it slowly.
Yeah. I saw in one of your last videos that you said that Roseanne's trigger, a positive trigger, is glitter. And yes, I can so relate to that. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but and you're absolutely not allowed, but you can absolutely say no, okay? There are several. I'm gonna rephrase that. So, as the viewers, and you obviously already know, there are certain traumata that have happened in the life of any person, usually starting at a very young age, to get to the point to have the dissociative identity disorder. Do you can you or do you want to talk about one of your traumata? Like, you don't need to elaborate, just...
Yeah, well, I don't actually know all of the traumas. So the trauma that caused Caroline to get DID in the first place, I don't really have any information of that because Sebastian holds all their memories to do with when Caroline was growing up. I just know that her mother, or egg donor, as I call it, wasn't a very nice woman.
Okay.
And because of what she did was what caused Caroline to develop DID as a coping mechanism for the abuse and trauma. And then, because the brain had learned to do that, whenever trauma then happened in the future, the brain would do it again, and then a new alter would be created.
Yes. Abuse from the parents is one of the most common causes of DID, as I read. Okay, I just don't understand. It doesn't matter. Go on. Okay, what alters? You talked about the sexual alter and the protectors and stuff like that. What are their roles? More elaborate, like what does a protector do?
So I would say, sorry, give me a minute.
Yes.
So the role of protector is sorry.
It's fine. Take your time.
My eyesight's gone funny. Right. So, yeah, role of protector is keeping everybody in the system as safe as possible, making sure that no more abuse or trauma or negative things happen to anybody in the system again.
Okay.
And if they're in a difficult situation, then a protector comes out that's more equipped to handle the situation.
Okay. Do you know who is the most... I mean, you told me that you, Amber, am I still talking to Amber?
No, you're not.
Okay. Who am I talking to?
You're talking to Sebastian.
Hello, Sebastian. Do
Hello.
you know do you know who of you is more fronting, like the most at front?
So Amber is the one that is in front and controlling the body most of the time because she's the host.
Okay. So the host means that she is the most apparent and there person of your personalities.
Yeah, so she's the one that sort of leads the more normal day-to-day life, pays the bills, makes sure things get done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like any normal person does.
Yes.
She's sort of leading Caroline's life for her.
And how long can she be there at a time? How often does a switch occur?
It varies, and it depends what happens on that particular day. There can be some days where there isn't a switch, and then if a rapid, what's called a rapid switching happens, then it could be 20, 30 times in a day.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
It's very, very physically and mentally tiring.
Yeah, I believe you. And how does that affect the usual day-to-day things that Amber usually has to do? Do you get... I mean, I don't know, if she, for example, is now in an interview with me, or if she is at the supermarket getting something, is it possible for you other guys to just take over and know where she left off?
Yes, if we are what we call co-conscious with her, then yes. So, because we had discussed this and we knew that this was happening, there were several of us co-conscious with her at the beginning of this interview, so we know what's going on.
Okay. Do you tell people in your life that you have the idea, or before your YouTube channel at least, because now you are active on YouTube and you are openly talking about DID and how it is for you? Do you talk about people you meet in everyday life, you know, normal everyday life before Corona? Do you talk about it?
To an extent. So the family doesn't know that we have DID. They don't even know that we have a YouTube channel. obviously Amber's partner knows about the DID, and me and Lilith used to like going to a local pub down the road, which obviously we haven't been able to do for a very long time. And Amber explained to the owners about the DID. So, if something was triggering or a switch happened, that they wouldn't be confused or frightened by what was happening. Only expecting only the owners of the pub to know. And then, within a month, I would say at least 3/4 of the pub knew.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah. She actually, she'd bring people over and go, oh, this is the lady I was telling you that's got the DID. And it would be like...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking to you right now. Bye. And yeah. So.
Well, it is actually a pretty... I think in this case it's a bad word, but it's a very interesting condition. So that very many people are very interested and are reacting to it in ways that are not always helpful.
Yeah, because it's a trauma-based condition. A person with DID is much more likely to fall back into the role of being a victim in a bad situation than they ever are to actually go and then hurt somebody else. Because they know what it's like and they don't want to do that to somebody else.
Yeah, and people should realize that it is actually just a coping mechanism that is protecting you. It's not something that is going to come out and kill everybody around. You said before that your family does not know. What is the part of the family that does not know? Like your parents?
None of my family know. So,
okay.
Don't have a very big family. There is my dad, my stepmom, my 2 stepsisters, and the grandparents, and none of them know.
And they also don't know about the YouTube channel. Do you sometimes worry about them finding out over YouTube?
Me, personally, I don't. I would probably prefer them to find out over YouTube. It makes it a lot easier. And it would give them time to sort of hopefully come around and accept it before any of us sort of had to have that face-to-face conversation. We just haven't told them about it because we feel that they wouldn't understand or even believe us. So
you wouldn't get the whole force of their reaction because they would be able to learn a bit about you and to learn about how it is for you and stuff like that. So that would be helpful, right?
Yes, if they were one to believe in the condition, and 2, if they would be able to accept it, because obviously our father would have to come to terms with the fact that he needed to do a lot more to protect Caroline when she was younger, and he did things that weren't bad, but he did things that weren't so great when she was growing up, and he'd have to do a lot of self-reflection, and whether he would be able to do that, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so cure. Let's talk about cure. Are you seeing a therapist at the moment?
No, we are not. We're seeing a therapist through a charity called Mind, but because it's a charity, they can only offer it for like certain periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I am on the waiting list to see a therapist via the NHS, which before the coronavirus was roughly an 18-month waiting list.
18 months?
18 months.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the therapist I was seeing knew about this, so she was like, well, that's fine, I can send off a referral to the local like psychiatric mental health hospital, whatever you want to call them, for you to be assessed by them, and then they would sort of be able to offer you therapy and treatment a lot more quickly. So I agreed to it. She sent it off. The referral came back for me to go in and see them. So we went, me, my therapist, and I had a support worker at the time. Went there, they asked some basic questions. My therapist mainly answered for me, but answered their questions, and the lady's exact words were, "I can see that you dissociate, but I don't believe in dissociative identity disorder as a real condition. So even though we can see you need help, we're not going to help you. Goodbye." And showed us the door.
And this is not 50 years ago. This is now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the possibility of you finding somebody that is gonna actually be able to help you?
So there are a lot of therapists out there that not only believe in DID but have had specific training on how to help people with DID. The only problem is they're private, which you have to pay for, and we can't afford that.
Yeah, okay. What would a cure look like? Would it mean that you are all into one again?
Yeah, I don't believe there's so much as a cure, but there's sort of two roads you can go down. You can sort of be happy as you are, living multiple, and just learning to break down them amnesic walls and having better communication and understanding and working together more functionally. Or there is the role of integration/fusion, which is, that's up to every individual system to make that up, for themselves.
Let's talk about integration and fusion a little bit. As I understood it, integration means that you are becoming one with another alter.
Yes.
And would you want this to happen?
So we have discussed this, and as a system we have said that we're not going to force anyone to do anything they don't want to do, but we're also not going to take that choice away from them. So we are leaving it up to individual alters to make that choice for themselves, if that is something that they want to do or not.
I watched a few videos on your channel, and then I watched a few videos of people that are watching your videos and people that are also doing videos on DID. And some of them were saying that it would be pretty hard to integrate because then this would be like losing a friend. Do you feel that? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, so I'm not super close with a lot of people in our system. I would say the only people that I'm close to is Roseanne, because she's my sister, and more recently Lilith, since the failed fusion that she had. We've sort of been talking and grown closer that way. And yeah, so if Roseanne chose to integrate, it would affect me as deeply as you if you had a sister and your sister went. Yeah. I would mourn her.
That's horrible. Because a non-DID person would think that this would be the goal, but then you have been living for your entire life with each other, so that would be a huge difference. That would be a huge deal to lose somebody so close to you.
Yeah, it's not like you would lose it like completely, because when fusion happens, it's just two parts sort of moulding, becoming together as one. And their personalities and attributes, and they sort of combine, and so it wouldn't be as if like she's gone, but then she wouldn't have her own body in the inner world. I wouldn't be able to like communicate with her like I do now. Yeah, so it's sort of, she would be gone, but at the same time she wouldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How do people treat you when they hear that you have DID? I mean, you told us the story about the pub owner who just thought it would be cool.
She found
to
it
tell
fascinating,
everyone.
so told everyone.
Yeah, and how do other people react to it?
I've had different reactions. So when Amber decided to come clean and sit down with her partner and explain what was going on, at this point they'd been dating like 2 or 3 years before she even said anything to him. His response was, well, honey, you've never been normal and you've always been a little bit crazy, but that's why I love you, so I don't care. Which was kind of really, really sweet of him, as much as I hate to admit that. And then, like, the lady at the pub, she found it fascinating, going around telling everyone. And then one person actually took us to the side and was talking to us, and he was like, oh yeah, I used to work in a mental health hospital, and I've seen people, like, you know, with DID, and some other people sort of joined in the conversation, and he was asking what we felt about the film Slit. So I said, I understand it's a Hollywood film, but it is completely misrepresenting the condition, which I didn't like. And his reply was, well, I've worked in a mental health hospital. Anybody with any mental health illness can be extremely dangerous in the way I look at it. Like, you know, you can be an extremely dangerous person. And he walked away, and I was just like, no, we're not dangerous. No. We're no more dangerous than you are.
Than anybody else, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and how would you like people to treat you? What would you tell people that do not have DID to react to persons they meet with DID?
So in an ideal world, like say everyone knew about it, and you meet someone, it's like, oh yes, I have DID. In an ideal world, I would want people to treat everyone in the system, the different alters, as they would treat anyone else, as they would treat a real person, because to us, we are real people. And also for people to go, that sounds so cool, it must always be a party in your head, and stuff like that, which just makes me want to slap them.
I believe that. And what advice would you give to someone that finds out that he has DID?
So if someone was finding out that they have DID, I suppose the main thing that I could say is they're not alone. There are other people out there with this condition. It's a lot more common than what they realise. And there are plenty of support groups out there that are free to join, and you can talk to real people that understand you, and you can help, and you can reach out to them, and they will help you in any way that they can. So yeah, if you're ever just worried or want to talk, don't hide yourself away like we did when we found out about it. Reach out, because there is help and understanding out there, and people that will accept you.
And with that, I want to once again thank Amber and Sebastian for answering all of my questions so patiently. I'm really sorry for triggering the switch, but thankful that Sebastian was up for continuing the interview, and I hope you guys learned as much as I did today. If you want to know more about them, go over to their channel of the Mattai system. You can find it in the description box below, and you will find a lot more DID specific info there. If you liked this video, then please give it a thumbs up. It makes a huge difference to me, and consider subscribing for more science on humans. See you next week, everyone.